When you see me, I'm in Uptown, baby. What you know about me? Oh, nothing really. Well, let's change that. See, I came back and took a break, but
Hey everybody, how's it going? So welcome to the SuperHuman Revolution. So finally going to do the first video right now, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things on this channel. So we're talking about how to build relationships, whether they're friendships or co-workers or romantic or not, what it means to be a man in this day and age, and how to be that, what is love, what else we're going to talk about, white privilege, even if that's real or not, Second Amendment rights, if that's, pros and cons, or different sides, things like that, different controversial topics. But so many things we're going to talk about. But for today, we're going to be talking about building relationships and what that means, and the best, studies, or just different topics we're going to talk about. What really makes the best relationships that we can have. All right. So we're going to talk about a couple main points. The first point we're talking about is the biggest part of it, the big foundation of living a happy life in general, and it's going to be loving yourself, learning to know how to love yourself. All right. Now, what does it mean to love yourself? It's not you have to be okay with your whole body, and it's not, I love every inch of my body, it's perfect just the way it is. That's not always the case, there's always going to be something we want to improve on, but that's what we want to get. We want to be able to improve on ourselves. We want to be able to get to that point where we're happy already with ourselves, and in that turn we're able to love somebody else. Because how can we love somebody else, or even more so, have somebody else love us, if we can't even do that to the same effect in our own? And more on that, how can we expect to give our whole selves if we can't even know our whole selves to love our whole selves? And again, how can we expect someone to love us if we can't accept our own faults and our own mistakes and learn to grow from that? How can we expect somebody to love ourselves? Because it's easier. It's easier for someone to let someone love us and to see who we are than to be comfortable with who we are in our own skin and be able to say, hey, I love myself. I made those mistakes last year, last week, or last century, whatever it was, but I still love myself, right? So that's the foundation. That's the first part. It's the first main point you guys need to know, is that to love yourself, and it's always going to be a constant struggle. Some it's going to be easier for others than it is, for the other group or that group, or with that person and that person. It's going to vary. You just have to get to that point, and then you can move on to start to have those great relationships in your life. All right, point number 2 is what we're talking about, and it goes for all different relationships. We're talking about laying a foundation, okay? Now that can be not just your romantic relationships, but your friendships, your classmates, your coworkers, your parents, your cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, everybody. Life is built on relationships, and we need that foundation. And as the classic kind of story goes, or the saying that goes, is that you can't build a house on sand. It's a weak foundation. You need a strong foundation, right? But even a better saying than that, this great quote from Jason Everett. He's a great speaker. He speaks to millions of youth all around the country. He's a great speaker. But Jason Everett says this: if you want a kite to ascend, you pull back on the string, and the tension causes it to rise up. If we run fast into the relationship, it weakens it. And it's really great because, as he says, you have to pull back on the string. So pull back on that relationship. Just bring it back a little bit, at least something. You got to pull back just a little bit. If you're not going to pull back completely, at least some. But I urge you to pull back as much as you can. Bring that relationship to a friendship first. Create that foundation, because you're just going to help your relationship grow so much better. And what he calls it as the season of friendship. Now, the season of friendship is such a great term that he coins, and it helps guys and girls alike to know about their significant other, or their wanted to be significant other, and learn about who they want them to be and what they want them to be, right? Girls, find out how the guy treats his mom, because they'll probably treat you the same way, right? Girls, find out how his friends talk about him, or his ex-girlfriends, what they think about him, how they talk about him, right? You get to learn a little bit more. And also, does he share the same values that you have? It's a big thing, especially when we're talking about if you want to grow in your spirituality and your religion and in your faith, especially. But even without that, even if you're not a religious person at all, if you're just a person who has higher values, or just say, hey, I want to be valued, I want this guy to do this for me, or this, that. But if he doesn't value that, it's like, oh, she's stupid for wanting that, that's ridiculous, whatever. You obviously know you guys don't have the same values and the same goals in mind, and you already know that's not the right person. But you can achieve that through that season of friendship. Now, guys, and this works for girls as well, but for guys, find out why you like her, why you're attracted to her, right? it's not just she's just a pretty face, because at the end of the day, we all know the first reason why we want to get with someone is because we're probably physically attracted to them, right? Oh, he or she has a nice face, or she's really pretty, or like, wow, she has great hair, whatever it is, you know. So I want to get to know that person. But it starts with that physical attraction. But through that, for the majority of the time, we use that physical attraction to get on an emotional and a deeper level, see what those person's personalities are, what their goals and interests are, and that's when we get that, you know, that longing for that person, that, you know, we start to grow that love for that person, right? We can do that in that season of friendship. It's really great, and it's a great foundation to lay. And I'll just give you a little story. I knew this girl, she had been dating this guy for 6 years. 6 years is a long time. They weren't even married, they weren't engaged, nothing like that, but they were dating for 6 years, right? And I knew she was a super religious person, a very big believer in God, and you know, that was her life. She you know, and I was like, that's great, you know, like I was talking to her about the faith and everything like that, and it was just really, she seemed like very in love with God, and just that's a really big part of her life. And I knew she was dating this guy. I didn't know anything about the guy. And then months went by and stuff like that, and I didn't see her for a while, and then came to find out they broke up. And I'm like, well, that's what happened. And so I come to find out that the guy was super atheist, very big atheist person, and he did not, of course, as a big atheist person, he did not like his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend now believing in God or having any part of the faith, and he often ridiculed her, made fun of it for her, even in front of his friends, and laughed at her about it. I don't know what foundation, if any, they laid before the relationship. I'm sure she knew that he was that way before they were dating or during their dating, but it just goes to show you, if that a person doesn't share your beliefs and your morals and your values, how you expect to have a lifelong relationship with that person. All right, point number 3 is a big point we're talking about, and I save it for the last part, or part of the last part, is because it's very controversial in this day and age. It's 2019, and it's for many years now, and for about a decade probably, it's been a big thing how we can achieve this point, right? And it's love. How do we get to love? It's romance, right? Love and then romance. How we get to romance? Sex. And these three are always intermixed with each other, right? We always need love to equal sex to equal romance, and romance to equal sex and to equal love, and blah blah blah. And it's always the three of them together, but they're independent of each other. We don't need each other for all three of these. People think in order to love somebody, I have to have sex with them. We see a movie, 2 people have sex, boom, they love each other. That they're meant to be together, right? It's not true. How come 60 years ago a movie had 2 people dating for 4 years and then they found out they love each other and there's never a sex scene? That didn't change it. It was over time, right? Because now we think that love equals sex, and sex equals romance, and sex equals romance and love, and everything's all intertwined, right? It's a mess. But I'm here to tell you that's wrong. It's not what we need in this life, and especially in relationships. It's not. We don't need to have everything intertwined. They're important in a relationship after marriage, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But yes, love is important for relationships, whether it's romantic or not. Now, a big part of these three is intimacy. Now, boom, as soon as we hear intimacy, we think sex, right? It's a big thing I hear all the time. Intimacy. It's like, oh, that's sex between, you know, a guy and a girl or whatever it is, right? And it's not. Intimacy is defined as closeness, friendship, and togetherness. No sex mentioned in there. We talked about physical intimacy. That's when we get to that sex. But just intimacy, just a plain word, intimacy. A great quote is from this really funny movie, Love Guru, and Michael Myers is the love guru in that movie, and he has this little kind of part of his mantra is intimacy, or into me I see. And it's kind of his thing where he talks about going into yourself and finding who you are and being in love with yourself and being intimate with yourself and just knowing who you are as a person and being able to put that outside to other people. And I think that's just a great way to put it. And in intimacy, we need that for ourselves, as we talked about loving yourself first, but having intimacy with other people to have closeness and togetherness, but in friendship, having friendship with everybody else. All right, so now going back to the sex subject, we're going to talk about some hormones, right? So growing up, we hear a lot about different hormones, right? And, you know, sex ed or sociology class, and we hear about, you know, testosterone, estrogen, oxytocin, and all these different things that we just hear about them. We might not know too much about them, but what I'm here to tell you guys is oxytocin is a powerful, powerful neurological hormone. It's right up here in the brain, right? And it's very dominant in women. It's in men too, but it's really dominant in women, especially in their very intimate moments. And we talked about intimacy is that closeness, that togetherness, right? That friendship with someone. It doesn't mean sexual intimacy. It's going to mean it in the quote that or the little thing we're going to talk about right now, but not in general, right? Now, the women, they have, of course, a beautiful gift of childbirth, and that's the biggest part of intimacy that they can get, right? And so we're going to talk about childbirth, breastfeeding, and sexual intimacy with her husband, right? The big three, right? Now, with oxytocin, it's such a powerful chemical hormone, that neurological hormone, that what it does to the female brain, especially the female brain, because it's such high levels, is that it impairs your critical thinking abilities, creates a huge bond of trust with the other person. It makes you focus on the positive and not the negative. In childbirth, the release of this hormone, oxytocin, makes the woman forget about the pain it took to have the child, because she becomes bonded to this child. She no longer starts blaming her husband for, you did this to me. She thinks, babe, I want to have another child, you know. She wants more children now because she's bonded with this child. She forgets the pain. She focuses on the positive and not the negative. And then in breastfeeding, the mom is up at midnight. She's up at 2, she's up at 4, she's up at 6 breastfeeding. She forgets how tiring it is to do that because she's holding her little baby in her arms, her beautiful baby now. She forgets all that tiredness and that pain that she's gone through because it's worth it, because that huge emotional trust and emotional bond with that baby. Sexual intimacy with her husband. She's bonded to him. She's not so critical of him anymore. She focuses on the positive and not the negative. She's not so critical about him leaving his clothes on the floor, yelling at the TV when his football team loses, or snoring in his sleep, or whatever it is. She's focused on the positive and not the negative. It binds you and it blinds you. But out of marriage, this can be very dangerous. Now, the Discover scientific study did an experiment on people, on two groups of people, and what they did was that they exposed one group to oxytocin and the other group to nothing. All right. And so what they did an investment game with these two groups. Now, what they asked these two groups to do is they had them invest into a company. They invested all their money into the company. Now, what had happened, what they found was that the group who had inhaled oxytocin were far more easygoing to give their money away. They're just like, yeah, sure, take it. Take all the money that I have. Doesn't really matter. Just take it all. I'll invest it all into this company without knowing anything about this company, without having any prior knowledge about this company. Now, the group who didn't inhale any oxytocin, just normal cognitive abilities, nothing changed at all. They were much more reserved and much more cautious about the company that they were supposed to invest into. And the majority of them said, nope, no thank you. They just, no question, they didn't want to invest any money into it. And this happens with a lot of relationships, that these girls are getting into these dead-end relationships, not realizing that, what's going on is bad, because they're not focusing on the negative. They're focusing on that positive aspect of it, and it's causing them to be problems. You ask these girls who that are these dead-end relationships, that they're these wrong guys, right? And you ask them, it's like, well, what's so great about it? It's like, well, I don't know. He smells good, and he buys me flowers here and there, and whatever. But she gets home and he beats her, or whatever it is. She's not focusing on the negative because they still have that sexual attraction or that sexual activities going on in their relationship, and it clouds her judgment, and it can cloud the guy's judgment at the same time as well. It's not just the girl. Okay, before we wrap it up, I want to leave you just one little quote from another great speaker, Chris Stefanik. He travels all over the globe and does phenomenal talks. But I just want to leave you with one little quote that he says. He says, "Your mind is like a bad neighborhood. Do not go in there alone." And it's such a great quote, I think, and it speaks volumes, because whatever we're struggling with, whatever we're thinking bad thoughts about ourselves, or things we're hating ourselves right now, or hating somebody else, or we're in this terrible relationship we don't know how to get out, but just always remember there's someone to talk to. Talk to somebody. Just think there's billions of people on this planet, and there's always one person. I hear time and time again, nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, nobody wants to listen to me, nobody's going to talk to me. Just think, billions of people, there's at least one person. I can guarantee you there's one person who will listen to you, who will talk to you, and who will help you out. Okay? So, don't think you're alone. These problems are not reserved for one person. We all go through these problems. We all struggle with making relationships. These are just 3 bullet points that I think are very important, and I've done research on, I've heard talks from, and I've put them in my own life and put them into practice, and they have been speaking volumes into my life and working so well. Building the best relationships, learn to love yourself first. Second, create that season of friendship. Create that foundation, because without a foundation we crumble. And 3, leave sex out of the equation. Just leave it out. And with that, leaving sex out of the equation, especially for us guys. It leads me to our next video. What is being a man? Is it inherent, or is something we have to be earning constantly in our life? And is sex part of becoming a man? Because it often is seen as that in our culture. That's going to be for the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you guys next time, and God bless.